TestUp.io, the easiest test automation tool on the web. Predecessors, creating a test requiring logins. Hello and welcome to the next video in our TestUp tutorial video series. Previously, we've created a new test that basically performs a login functionality for any web application that you can envision, which should be the application that you already have in mind that you've developed. So most applications use some sort of login feature, and I've just shown you how to create a test that exactly does that. So next up, I'm going to create a new test. This test I'm going to name Create. And in the test, I'm going to select the same settings as I selected before, a browser, but I'm going to select a predecessor. In this case, the login test. It's going to take the URL directly from the predecessor, so I don't need to enter any. It's going to also take the settings directly from it. So as a predecessor, that means these steps will be performed before starting this test. And you can easily imagine what this can be used for. For many applications, the first step is the login, or the first steps are always the same, so you package them together into one predecessor that you only have to edit once, and all the subsequent tests follow from there. So I'm going to hit the edit button. And I already see that the first step is here, which is the login step. I can open it and unfold it, and it shows me basically all the steps that I had in my login functionality before, or I can close it again, wait for it to have played, and then continue from there. So what it is performing in the background is the login that we saw previously, and now that I've logged in, I'm going to continue from here, which means that I can now append actions after the login is completed. So in our case, I'm going to hit the Create Project button. So append a new action. I'm going to create a new project by simply hitting the Create Project button. And this project I'm going to name Test Project. And once I've done that, I'm going to create a new test within the test project. So let's create a new test. And this I'm going to name Test, because I'm very original in the wordings and the names that I choose for these things. I'm going to select the test type browser, so I'm going to click on browser. Hopla, I have to click on the right area. And now that I've created a browser, I'm going to select a URL. And for the URL, I'm going to type testup.io. Now that I've entered the URL, I could go to the edit button, but in theory I don't actually want to do any of this. So the next step that I'm going to do is I've created now a test, seen that it works, and I'm going to hit the back button. And after continuing with the back button, I'm going to hit the three-dot menu, and for no other reason than to reset what I wanted to do before, because if you have multiple tests, you might want to reset the application to something it was before. I'm going to delete this project. So I've basically tested whether I can create a project and create a test within that project and delete the project afterwards again. And if this test passes, I should be again at status 0, not having changed anything within the application. So I've changed something, tested if it works, and reset it so that next time I run it, it basically starts from the same starting position. So in this scenario, I'm going to end this by performing one final check to see that I'm back in the start menu, and now I'm going to execute this test. So what we've done now is we've created a test that has a predecessor, meaning a common factor like a login, then performs some steps, and then resets the entire thing. So I'm not going to be patient and wait for this to have concluded, so I'm going to create even a new test, again on browser, and again as a predecessor, the login. And this test I'm going to name Rename. I'm not going to actually do anything in this test, so I'm going to simply go back to show you that you've got now two tests under a predecessor, and you can have as many as you want. And each test, now that it has executed successfully, basically performs first the steps of the predecessor, which is the login functionality, always the same, and then the steps of the corresponding test. It created a test, it selected the URL, and then it deleted the entire project, basically resetting what it has done. I hope you learned something and you now know how to use predecessors properly. There's even way more complex examples if you merge them together. A predecessor can have another predecessor, can have another predecessor. You can make this infinitely complicated, but it is a quite easy and straightforward tool. I hope you enjoyed this session and you learned something, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video with TestUp.io, the easiest test automation tool on the web. Thanks for watching. Take a look at our other videos to learn more about TestUp.